My sister accused my pregnant girlfriend of baby trapping me for money, so when she publicly humiliated her at our baby shower, my dad canceled all wedding funding, and her fiancé left her. I need some outside perspective on what happened at our baby shower last weekend. I'm Wesley, 26M, and my girlfriend Skye, 24F, is 6 months pregnant with our first child. We've been together for 2.5 years after meeting during our last semester of college. The pregnancy wasn't planned, but we both wanted to keep the baby. Skye moved in with me 4 months ago when we found out she was expecting. Her family was thrilled from day one. My family had a different reaction. Let me give you some background about my family. My dad Michael, 52M, owns a landscaping business that's done really well over the years. My mom Bianca, 49F, works as a real estate agent. They live in a nice house in the suburbs and have always been generous with money. My sister Amy, 28F, is getting married in 2 months to her fiancé Wilson, 30M. Skye comes from a middle-class family. Both her parents work at the local community college in administration. They're good people but definitely not as well off as my family. When we first told my parents about the pregnancy, they congratulated us but something changed. They became distant and formal with Skye. Before the pregnancy news, my mom would hug Skye when she saw her and ask about her job and friends. After we told them about the baby, those conversations stopped. Amy also became cold toward Skye, giving short responses when Skye tried to make conversation. About 3 weeks after we shared the news, my mom and Amy asked to speak with me privately. They wanted me to come to Amy's apartment without Skye. I went because I thought maybe they had concerns they wanted to discuss. That conversation was brutal. Amy started by saying she thought it was suspicious that Skye got pregnant so close to her wedding date. She said it seemed like Skye was trying to steal attention from her big day. Then my mom joined in and said she was worried Skye got pregnant on purpose to secure her place in our family. She used the words baby trap multiple times. I told them they were being ridiculous and that the pregnancy was completely unplanned. I explained that Skye and I had talked about our future together even before she got pregnant. But they wouldn't listen. Amy kept saying the timing was too convenient. My mom said Skye probably saw an opportunity when she learned about Amy's expensive wedding and our family's financial situation. I left that conversation angry and told Skye everything they said. She didn't say much but I could see how much it hurt her. She just nodded and said she understood why they might think that, but it wasn't true. My dad wasn't part of that conversation and when I told him what happened, he was upset with my mom and Amy. He said their behavior was unacceptable and asked everyone to be civil for the sake of family peace. He's always liked Skye and treats her like she's already part of the family. For the past few months, we've all been pretending everything is fine when we're together. But I can tell Skye is uncomfortable around my mom and Amy. They make little comments about money and timing that they think are subtle but aren't. Last month Amy made a joke about how expensive baby cribs are these days and how some people are lucky to have family who can help with those costs. My dad suggested Skye and I get engaged sooner rather than later. He said it would help with family dynamics and show everyone we're serious about our commitment. We had already talked about getting engaged after the baby was born, but we moved up our timeline. I proposed 3 weeks ago and Skye said yes. The engagement didn't help. If anything, it made Amy more agitated. She started making comments about how we were rushing things and how the engagement ring was probably more expensive than she expected. She asked Skye multiple times to see the ring and would examine it closely while making remarks about the cost. Last weekend we decided to have a small baby shower at my apartment. We invited both families and a few close friends. Skye was excited because this was the first time in months that both families would be together for something positive. The shower started well. People were eating, talking, and looking at baby gifts. Skye seemed relaxed for the first time in weeks. My dad was helping with hosting duties and making sure everyone had drinks and food. Then Amy approached Skye while she was opening gifts. Several people were gathered around watching. Amy asked Skye to show everyone the engagement ring again. Skye held out her hand and Amy made a big show of examining it. Amy said the ring was beautiful and must have cost quite a bit. Then she said that if things didn't work out between Skye and me, Skye could always sell the ring and use the money to support herself and the baby. She said this while smiling like she was making a friendly suggestion. But she wasn't done. Amy then said that Skye should definitely keep the ring safe in case her plan to trap me with a baby didn't work out in the long run. She said this loud enough for everyone in the room to hear. The room went completely silent. Skye's face went white and she just stared at Amy. I started to stand up to say something to my sister, but my dad got there first. My dad was furious in a way I'd never seen before. His voice was shaking when he told Amy that her comment was completely inappropriate and demanded she apologize to Skye immediately. Amy said she was just joking and that everyone was being too sensitive. That's when my dad made an announcement that shocked everyone. He said that since Amy was so concerned about money and people using others financially, she could prove her independence by paying for her own wedding. He said he was withdrawing all funding for her wedding effective immediately. Amy and my mom both started yelling at the same time. Amy said Dad couldn't be serious and that the wedding was in 2 months. My mom said Dad was overreacting to a harmless joke. But Dad stood firm. Then Skye spoke up for the first time since Amy's comment. She said she thought Dad's decision was completely appropriate given Amy's behavior. Hearing Skye support his decision seemed to solidify it for Dad. He said his decision was final. What happened next was chaos. Amy started crying and yelling about how her wedding was ruined. My mom was furious and said Skye had manipulated Dad into punishing Amy. The room was full of shouting and accusations flying back and forth. Skye's parents looked mortified by the whole scene. Our friends were clearly uncomfortable and started making excuses to leave. Within 20 minutes, most of the guests had gone home. I told Amy and my mom they needed to leave my apartment. They eventually did, but not before my mom said this whole situation was Skye's fault and that she had destroyed our family. After they left, my dad stayed behind. He apologized to Skye and her parents for my mom's and Amy's behavior. He told Skye she didn't need to pretend to be polite to them anymore and that he would understand if she never wanted to see them again. It's been 5 days since the baby shower. Amy and my mom have been calling and texting me nonstop. They want me to convince Dad to change his mind about the wedding funding. They say I need to make Skye apologize for supporting Dad's decision. They claim Skye has turned Dad against his own family. I found out from Dad that Amy and Wilson had already put deposits down for everything with the understanding that Dad would pay the final balances after the wedding. Since all the contracts are signed and deposits aren't refundable, Amy can't cancel without losing thousands of dollars. Wilson's family can't afford to cover the costs either. Amy is supposed to get married in 8 weeks and has no way to pay for the venue, catering, flowers, or photographer. The vendors want their payments soon or they'll cancel the services. My mom has stopped talking to Dad entirely. She moved in with Amy temporarily to help figure out what to do about the wedding situation. Skye has been quiet since the baby shower. She spends time organizing the nursery and reading pregnancy books. She doesn't ask about my family or bring up what happened. I can tell she's trying to give me space to figure things out with them. I don't know what to do. Part of me thinks Dad was too harsh and that Amy's comment, while horrible, doesn't deserve destroying her wedding. But another part of me is glad someone finally stood up for Skye after months of subtle insults and accusations. Dad says he won't change his mind unless Amy gives Skye a sincere apology and acknowledges that her behavior has been wrong from the beginning. Amy says she won't apologize because she was just making a joke and everyone overreacted. So now my family is split in half 8 weeks before Amy's wedding and 6 weeks before Skye and I become parents. I don't know if there's a way to fix this or if I even should try. Update 1: A lot has happened since my original post. I want to thank everyone who commented and gave advice. Reading your responses helped me understand that I needed to have some difficult conversations. First, I talked to Skye about whether she resented me for what happened at the baby shower. I was worried she might blame me for my family's behavior or for the whole situation spiraling out of control. Skye told me she didn't blame me at all. She said she was actually relieved that someone had finally called out Amy's behavior directly instead of everyone pretending it wasn't happening. She said the months of subtle comments and looks had been wearing her down more than she'd admitted. Then I asked her how she felt about my dad's decision to cut off Amy's wedding funding. Skye said she hadn't expected my dad to react so strongly, but she was grateful he defended her. She said supporting his decision in the moment felt like the right thing to do because Amy needed to face consequences for her actions. We also talked about what this meant for our future as a family. Skye said she wanted to try to repair relationships with my mom and Amy eventually, but only if they were willing to genuinely apologize and change their behavior. She didn't want our child growing up in a family full of tension and unresolved conflict. Meanwhile, the situation with Amy's wedding was getting desperate. She had been calling vendors trying to negotiate payment plans, but most weren't willing to work with her. Wilson's parents offered to help with what they could afford, but it wasn't nearly enough to cover the remaining costs. Amy started reaching out to extended family members asking for loans. She called my dad's brother, our grandparents, and even some family friends. Most people were uncomfortable getting involved in family drama and politely declined to help. 2 weeks after the baby shower, Amy called me directly instead of just texting. She was crying on the phone and said her wedding was going to be ruined because of what happened. She said she couldn't understand why everyone was punishing her so severely for making one comment. I told Amy that it wasn't just one comment. I reminded her about the months of accusations about Skye being a gold digger and trying to steal attention from her wedding. I said the baby shower comment was just the final straw after months of disrespectful behavior. Amy got defensive and said she had legitimate concerns about Skye's motives. She said the timing of the pregnancy really did seem suspicious and that I was being naive if I couldn't see that Skye had planned it. That conversation made me realize how deep Amy's resentment went. It wasn't just about the wedding or the money. She genuinely believed Skye had manipulated me and our family. After I got off the phone with Amy, I called my dad. He said my mom had been pressuring him constantly to change his mind. She was staying at Amy's apartment and they spent their days trying to figure out solutions for the wedding costs. Dad said he felt terrible about the timing and the stress it was causing everyone, but he couldn't back down now. He said if he gave in, it would send the message that Amy could treat Skye however she wanted without consequences. But then something unexpected happened. Wilson, Amy's fiancé, called me. We'd never had a personal conversation before, but he said he needed to talk to someone in the family who might listen. Wilson told me he was starting to have serious doubts about marrying Amy. He said her reaction to the wedding funding being cut off had shown him a side of her personality he hadn't seen before. He was disturbed by how she was treating Skye and how she was handling the whole situation. Wilson said Amy had been talking about taking out significant loans to pay for the wedding. She wanted to use credit cards and personal loans to cover the costs, even though they didn't have steady income to pay them back quickly. He was worried about starting their marriage with massive debt from one day. More importantly, Wilson said Amy's comments about Skye had made him uncomfortable for months. He said he'd tried to tell Amy that her behavior was inappropriate, but she dismissed his concerns. After the baby shower incident, he realized how cruel Amy could be when she felt threatened. Wilson said he was considering calling off the wedding entirely. Not because of the money, but because he was questioning whether Amy was the person he thought she was. He asked if I thought he was overreacting. I didn't know what to tell Wilson. I'd never seen this side of Amy before Skye got pregnant, but the past few months had definitely revealed something ugly in her personality. I told Wilson he needed to make his own decision, but that I understood his concerns. This conversation with Wilson made me realize the situation was even more complicated than I'd thought. It wasn't just about family relationships anymore. Amy's behavior was potentially destroying her engagement as well as her relationship with our family. I decided I needed to talk to Skye about Wilson's concerns. She listened without saying much, but I could tell she was processing what this might mean for everyone involved. Skye asked if I thought Wilson might actually call off the wedding. I said I wasn't sure, but that he seemed genuinely troubled by Amy's behavior and her financial decisions regarding the wedding costs. We talked about whether we should try to intervene somehow. Skye said she didn't think it was our place to get involved in Wilson and Amy's relationship decisions. She said if Wilson had concerns about marrying Amy, those were issues they needed to work out together. But Skye also said she felt bad that Wilson was caught in the middle of our family drama. She said it wasn't fair that Amy's issues with her were affecting Wilson's life and future. The whole situation was getting more complicated every day. Amy was getting more desperate about the wedding costs, my mom was furious with Dad and Skye, Wilson was questioning his engagement, and Skye and I were trying to prepare for our baby while dealing with all this family chaos. I still don't know how this is all going to resolve, but Wilson's call made me realize that Amy's behavior might have consequences beyond just her relationship with our family. Update 2: I'm writing this update to let everyone know about some major developments that happened over the past month and a half. Some of you guessed correctly about what might happen with Wilson and Amy. 3 weeks after my last update, Wilson called off the wedding. He came to talk to me and Skye in person to explain his decision. Wilson said the past few weeks had shown him that Amy wasn't ready for marriage and that he couldn't move forward with someone who treated people the way Amy had treated Skye. Wilson said the final straw was when Amy suggested they should ask Skye to give back the engagement ring my dad bought her. Amy thought if Skye returned the ring, they could sell it to help pay for wedding costs. Wilson was horrified that Amy would ask a pregnant woman to give up her engagement ring to fund someone else's wedding. When Wilson refused to ask us about the ring, Amy accused him of caring more about Skye than about their relationship. She said Wilson was choosing my family over her, which Wilson found ironic given that Amy was the one who had damaged relationships with my family. Wilson told Amy he couldn't marry someone who would ask those things of people and who couldn't take responsibility for her own actions. He said Amy's behavior over the past few months had made him question her character and whether she was someone he wanted to build a life with. The wedding was officially canceled 2 weeks before it was supposed to happen. Amy lost all the deposits, which totaled about $8,000 between the venue, catering, and other vendors. Wilson's family lost some money too, but not as much since most of the major expenses were going to be covered by my parents originally. Amy was devastated. She called me crying and said her life was ruined. She blamed Skye for everything that had happened, saying that if Skye hadn't gotten pregnant and caused all this drama, Wilson never would have seen this side of her. I told Amy that Wilson broke up with her because of her own behavior, not because of Skye's pregnancy. I said if she couldn't see that her treatment of Skye was wrong, then maybe Wilson made the right decision. Amy hung up on me and hasn't spoken to me since then. My mom was furious about the cancelled wedding. She called my dad and screamed at him over the phone, saying he had destroyed Amy's life and happiness. She said Skye had manipulated our entire family and turned us against each other. Dad told my mom that Amy's problems were consequences of her own choices and behavior. He said he was sorry Amy's engagement ended, but that Wilson had every right to reconsider marrying someone who treated people cruelly. The conversation between my parents got very heated. Mom said Dad had chosen Skye over his own daughter. Dad said he had simply refused to tolerate disrespectful behavior, and that Amy had made her choices. That was the last conversation my parents had. Mom moved out of the house completely and is now living in a rental apartment across town. She and Dad are discussing divorce. Meanwhile, Skye entered her 3rd trimester and we started getting ready for the baby's arrival. Skye's parents have been incredibly supportive and helpful. They come over on weekends to help us prepare the nursery and have offered to help with childcare after the baby is born. My dad has also been great. He comes by regularly to check on Skye and help with anything we need. He bought the crib and changing table for the nursery. He says he's excited to be a grandfather and wants to be as involved as we'll let him be. Skye and I decided to take childbirth classes together. During one of the classes, we ran into Wilson. He was there with a new girlfriend he'd started dating recently. It was awkward at first, but Wilson was friendly and asked how Skye was feeling and when the baby was due. After the class, Wilson pulled me aside and said he wanted to apologize for any stress his breakup with Amy had caused our family. I told him he didn't need to apologize for making the right decision for himself. Wilson said he was much happier now and felt like he'd dodged a major bullet. He said his new girlfriend was kind and considerate, which made him realize how toxic his relationship with Amy had become. Hearing Wilson talk about his new relationship made me appreciate Skye even more. Throughout this entire drama, Skye has been calm and reasonable. She never demanded that I choose sides or asked me to cut off contact with family members. She just wanted to be treated with basic respect. Skye is now 34 weeks pregnant and everything is going well with the pregnancy. We're both excited and nervous about becoming parents. We've been taking care of all the practical preparations like installing the car seat and packing the hospital bag. We haven't heard from Amy since she hung up on me after Wilson called off the wedding. I know from Dad that she moved back in with Mom at the rental apartment. Dad says Amy is working at a retail job now to pay her bills since she can't afford her old apartment without Wilson's income contribution. My mom sends Dad legal papers occasionally related to their separation, but they don't communicate directly anymore. Dad seems sad about his marriage ending, but he says he doesn't regret standing up for what was right. A few of Skye's friends have asked if we feel bad about how everything turned out for Amy. Skye always says she wishes things had worked out differently, but that she couldn't control Amy's choices or reactions. I think Skye handles questions about the situation better than I do. She doesn't get defensive or emotional about it. She just says that everyone made their own decisions and had to live with the consequences. We're focused now on getting ready for our baby and building our own little family. Dad will be involved as much as he wants to be. Skye's parents are thrilled to become grandparents. We have a good support system even though my mom and Amy aren't part of it anymore. The baby is due in about 6 weeks and we can't wait to meet our daughter. Final update: our daughter Sophie was born healthy and beautiful 3 months ago. The delivery went smoothly and Skye recovered well from childbirth. Being new parents has been exhausting but incredible. My dad has been an amazing grandfather. He comes over twice a week to help with Sophie and brings groceries or dinner when he visits. He's patient with all our new parent questions and loves holding Sophie while Skye naps or showers. Skye's parents visit every weekend and have been lifesavers with childcare advice and practical help. Sophie is lucky to have grandparents who are so excited to be part of her life. We haven't had any contact with my mom or Amy since Sophie was born. I thought about reaching out when Sophie arrived, thinking maybe a new baby might bring the family back together. But Skye reminded me that we tried to include them before and they chose conflict over family harmony. I did send my mom a text message with a photo when Sophie was born. I included Sophie's name and birth details. My mom never responded. A few days later, Dad told me that Mom had seen the photo because she asked him if the baby looked healthy. But she never reached out to us directly. Amy also hasn't made any contact. Dad says she's still working retail and living with Mom. He doesn't know much about her personal life since she won't talk to him either. Wilson married his new girlfriend last month in a small courthouse ceremony. I heard about it through mutual friends. They seemed very happy in the photos people shared online. Wilson made a good decision ending his engagement to Amy. The divorce between my parents was finalized 6 weeks ago. Dad kept the house and Mom took half of their shared assets. They communicate only through lawyers now when necessary. Dad started dating someone new recently. Her name is Janet and she's a widow with adult children. She seems nice and treats Skye and Sophie well when she visits with Dad. Skye likes her and says she's glad Dad found someone who makes him happy. Taking care of a newborn has kept Skye and me busy enough that we don't spend much time thinking about the family drama anymore. We have our hands full with feeding schedules, diaper changes, and trying to get enough sleep. Skye went back to work part-time when Sophie was 10 weeks old. She likes having adult conversation and using her brain for something other than baby care, but she misses Sophie when she's away. I've been working from home more often so I can help with childcare and spend time with Sophie. My boss has been understanding about my schedule needs as a new parent. We're planning to buy a house next year when our lease expires. Dad offered to help with the down payment, which is generous of him. We want Sophie to have a yard to play in and we need more space for all the baby equipment. Sometimes people ask if I miss having my mom and sister in my life. The honest answer is that I miss who I thought they were, but I don't miss the stress and conflict they brought to our relationship. Skye says she doesn't miss walking on eggshells or wondering what passive-aggressive comment was coming next. She says our home is peaceful now and that's better for Sophie than growing up around family tension. I think we made the right choices even though the outcomes were painful. Skye deserved to be treated with respect, especially during her pregnancy. Amy and Mom had months to change their behavior and chose not to. Sophie is a happy baby who smiles and laughs a lot. She has Skye's eyes and my dad's chin. Dad says she's going to be trouble when she gets older because she's already got everyone wrapped around her finger. We're planning Sophie's first birthday party even though it's still 8 months away. Sky wants to have it at a local park with both sets of grandparents and our close friends. We're looking forward to celebrating our daughter surrounded by people who love and support our family. Life is good. We're tired from night feedings and diaper duty, but we're happy. Sophie is healthy and growing fast. Sky and I are stronger as a couple after getting through all the family drama together. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your family is protect them from toxic people, even when those people are related to you. Sophie deserves to grow up around people who treat others with kindness and respect. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. My family had secret betting pools on my life and sabotaged my career after secretly feeding me meat for years when I was vegetarian. Hey Reddit, long time lurker here, but I really need some perspective on this situation. I, 28F, recently discovered something about my family that has me questioning everything about my childhood and our relationships. For some background, I became a vegetarian when I was 15 after our class did a project on factory farming. The footage and information really affected me, and I decided I couldn't contribute to that industry anymore. My parents, especially my mom, 52F, were immediately against it. They come from a traditional meat and potatoes background where every meal needs to have meat to be complete. My dad, 54M, at least tried to understand at first. He would ask me questions about my research and seemed interested in my reasons. But my mom was openly hostile about it from day one. She'd make comments at every meal about how I was embarrassing the family and trying to be different just for attention. Our extended family wasn't any better. My uncle Mike, 49M, would wave bacon in my face at family breakfasts, thinking he was hilarious. My grandma, 75F, would constantly try to sneak meat onto my plate, saying just a little bit won't hurt. Even my younger sister, 26F, got in on it, making exaggerated sounds while eating meat in front of me. Despite all this, I stuck to my principles. I learned to cook my own meals, joined vegetarian groups at school for support, and did extensive research on nutrition to make sure I was staying healthy. I even started growing my own vegetables in our backyard. My mom complained that the garden ruined her lawn aesthetic, but I was determined to be self-sufficient. Every family gathering became a battleground. Thanksgiving was especially bad. My mom would forget to make any vegetarian sides, so I'd end up eating just plain rolls while everyone made comments about how I was ruining the holiday by not eating turkey. Christmas wasn't much better. My extended family would compete to see who could make the most comments about my phase and when I would grow out of it. I ended up stopping being vegetarian during my junior year of college. I developed some health issues, severe anemia that wasn't responding well to supplements. My doctor suggested adding some meat back into my diet. It wasn't an easy decision, but my health had to come first. I still ate mostly vegetarian but would occasionally have meat when my body seemed to need it. Now here's where things get really messed up. Last week, I was at my cousin Sarah's, 30F, wedding. It was a beautiful ceremony, and everything was going fine until the reception. Uncle Mike got pretty drunk and started telling stories about the good old days. That's when he dropped the bomb that shattered my entire worldview. He started laughing about how for years, the entire time I was vegetarian, my whole family had been secretly feeding me meat. Not just once or twice, but systematically, as part of some sick game they were all playing. They had an actual organized competition to see who could trick me into eating meat the most times. As he talked, other family members joined in, sharing their clever tricks. My mom would make 2 versions of everything, one normal and one special for me with hidden meat products. She would cook rice in chicken broth but tell me it was vegetable broth. She would fry vegetables in bacon grease. She even mixed ground beef into my veggie burgers. My grandma was apparently the champion of their little game. She would grind up bacon and hide it in everything, soups, salads, casseroles. She bragged about how she won their competition by sneaking the most protein into my food. They all thought this was hilarious, laughing and sharing their favorite memories of deceiving me. When I sat there in shock, they tried to justify it by saying they were doing it for my own good because I needed the protein. But they couldn't even keep straight faces while saying this. They were all giggling and nudging each other like it was the best joke ever. I felt physically sick. Every time I had stood up for my beliefs, every argument about respecting my choices, every family meal where I thought I was successfully maintaining my principles, it was all a lie. They had been systematically violating my trust and bodily autonomy for years, and then laughing about it behind my back. I got up and left the wedding without saying goodbye. I couldn't stand to be around them for another minute. Since then, my phone has been blowing up with messages from various family members. Some are telling me I'm being dramatic. Others are saying I ruined Sarah's wedding by making a scene, even though I literally just quietly left. My mom keeps saying, but you eat meat now anyway, so what's the big deal? My dad, who I thought might understand, texted saying I need to learn to take a joke and stop being so sensitive. My sister sent me a long message about how I'm tearing the family apart over ancient history. None of them seem to understand that this isn't just about the meat. It's about years of deliberate deception. It's about them turning my sincere ethical beliefs into a game. It's about them violating my trust and autonomy, then laughing about it like it was some hilarious prank instead of a systematic betrayal. I haven't spoken to any of them since the wedding. I've been ignoring their calls and messages. Some extended family members have started posting passive-aggressive things on social media about how some people can't take a joke and family should come first. But I keep thinking, if they could do this, what else have they lied about? How can I ever trust anything they say again? How can I ever eat food they prepare? The whole thing has me questioning every memory of my teenage years. So Reddit, AITA for being furious about this? Am I really overreacting like they say? Because right now, I'm seriously considering cutting contact with my entire family over this. I just can't see how I can maintain relationships with people who spent years deceiving me and now won't even acknowledge how wrong it was. Update 1 first, I want to thank everyone who commented on my last post. Your support helped me realize I wasn't crazy for being upset about this. The situation has gotten even more twisted since then, so I thought I should update you all. After my post, I took everyone's advice and stayed firm about keeping my distance from my family. I blocked most of them on my phone but kept my sister unblocked since we work at the same company and sometimes need to communicate about work stuff. It was awkward seeing her in the office, but we managed to stay professional. Last week, my sister asked to have lunch in my office, saying she wanted to apologize. I was hesitant but agreed, thinking maybe at least one family member had realized how messed up their actions were. She started the conversation well enough, admitting the meat tampering was wrong and saying she felt terrible about it. Then she dropped a bomb that made the whole situation even worse. The meat tampering wasn't just about protein or them thinking it was funny. My entire family had been running a betting pool about when I would give up being vegetarian. They had this elaborate system where people would put in money every month. Everyone would pick dates or events when they thought I would crack and start eating meat again. My sister showed me screenshots of an old group chat where they coordinated everything. They would strategically feed me meat on certain days because different people had bet on different occasions. The betting pot grew to over $2,000 because I held out for so long. That's why my Uncle Mike was so loose-lipped at the wedding. He was the one who won the pool. He had bet I would cave during my junior year of college due to health issues. When I actually did start eating meat again because of my anemia, he won big. But here's where it gets even more twisted. This wasn't just about my vegetarianism. My sister revealed they had betting pools for everything I tried to do growing up. When I wanted to learn piano at age 12. They bet on when I'd quit. When I joined the track team in high school. More bets. When I started applying to colleges. They bet on which ones would reject me. They turned every single one of my interests, efforts, and struggles into a gambling opportunity. The family group chat was full of discussions about odds and potential payouts. They would actively try to influence outcomes to win their bets. Like when I was learning piano, the person who bet I'd quit after 3 months would constantly tell me how hard it was and how I probably wasn't cut out for it. My sister tried to defend all this by saying it was just family fun and that the gambling gave everyone more investment in my life. She actually suggested I should be flattered that they paid such close attention to my activities. When I pointed out how messed up it was to literally bet against your child's success, she just shrugged. The most infuriating part? She said, at least mom and dad usually bet on you lasting longer than most people thought you would. Like I should be grateful that my parents occasionally bet on me succeeding? She even had the nerve to say I was probably just jealous because I never got to participate in the betting. She literally said, if you hadn't been so stubborn about the vegetarian thing, you could have thrown the bet and we could have split the winnings. I lost it at that point. I told her to get out of my office and not to contact me again except for absolutely necessary work communications. She started crying, saying I was tearing the family apart over ancient history and that I was being cruel for punishing everyone over something that happened years ago. Then she revealed something that made me really worried. Apparently, my parents are planning some kind of intervention because they're concerned about my mental health. They think my inability to take a joke and holding grudges means I must be having some kind of breakdown. My sister warned me they're planning to show up at my apartment this weekend to talk some sense into me. I immediately called my landlord and warned him not to let anyone into my building, even if they claim to be family. I'm staying with my friend Rachel this weekend just in case they try something. Rachel has been incredibly supportive through all this. She's completely horrified by my family's behavior and said her parents would never dream of doing something like this. I'm so angry I can barely think straight. Finding out about the betting has somehow made this whole thing even worse. It wasn't just them disrespecting my choices or thinking they knew better than me. They were actively gambling on my failures and trying to manipulate outcomes for their own entertainment and profit. Every memory I have of family members giving me advice or commenting on my choices is now tainted. Were they trying to help me, or were they trying to win bets? Every time they supported me or discouraged me from something, was it genuine, or were they trying to influence their gambling odds? I'm definitely maintaining no contact now. I'm also looking for a new job so I don't have to work with my sister anymore. I've started documenting everything in case I need a restraining order in the future. Given how they've behaved so far, I wouldn't put anything past them. We'll update again if they try this intervention nonsense or if anything else happens. Right now, I'm just trying to process how my entire childhood and teenage years were apparently just entertainment for my family's gambling habit. Update 2. As many of you requested an update, I'm back with more revelations that honestly make me wish I'd never started digging into all this. Remember how I mentioned looking for a new job to get away from my sister? Well, that led to some discoveries that make the betting pools look almost harmless in comparison. Last week, I had a promising interview at a larger company in my field. Everything was going great until the hiring manager, let's call her Jane, started looking confused while reviewing my resume. She asked me to clarify something: had I worked at my current company for 6 years or 2 years? Because she had heard different information from her industry contacts. I was confused because I definitely started working there 6 years ago. I still had my original offer letter and emails to prove it. Jane mentioned that she knew someone at my current company who had a very different understanding of my work history. She was polite about it, but I could tell she thought I was lying on my resume. After the interview, I went straight to HR at my current company and requested all my employment records. What I found was shocking. Someone had been systematically altering my employment history in our system. My start date had been changed, making it look like I'd only been there for 2 years. Several of my major projects and achievements had been completely removed from my file. But the worst part? My performance reviews had been altered. Reviews where I'd received exceeds expectations had been changed to meets expectations or even needs improvement. This explained why I'd been passed over for promotions I thought I deserved. It didn't take long to figure out who was behind it. My sister worked in HR and had full access to the system. When I confronted our HR director with proof of the original documents versus the altered ones, they did an investigation and found my sister's digital fingerprints all over these changes. She was fired immediately for employment fraud. But instead of apologizing, she sent me this long, angry email blaming me for everything. That's when she revealed why she did it. There was another betting pool about my career. The family had bets going on how long it would take me to realize I was being held back at work. My sister was actively sabotaging my career progression to manipulate these bets. Some family members had money on me staying at the same level for 5+ years, others bet I would eventually get frustrated and quit. The email included screenshots of recent family group chats that made me sick to my stomach. They've been placing new bets since my first Reddit post, betting on how long I'll maintain no contact, whether I'll press charges against my sister, and if I'll show up at Thanksgiving. They even have side bets on whether I'm in therapy and if I'm dating anyone new. My mom called to scream at me for getting my sister fired. According to her, I should have handled it within the family instead of going to HR. She said I should have just laughed it off and found a new job quietly. Then she had the nerve to suggest I should give my sister part of my salary until she finds new work, since this was all my fault anyway. I've hired a lawyer to help me deal with the employment fraud situation. He's also helping me draft cease and desist letters to my family members. Turns out, what my sister did could actually result in criminal charges, especially since it affected my income and career opportunities. Rachel suggested I check if they've been opening credit cards or accounts in my name, given how comfortable they were with fraud. My lawyer agreed this was a good idea, so I'm running full credit checks next week. At this point, nothing would surprise me anymore. The most disturbing part of all this is realizing how deep this manipulation went. This wasn't just family members making bets for fun, they were actively sabotaging my life to win these bets. They were willing to harm my career, my financial future, and my professional reputation, all for their gambling entertainment. I'll update again once I get the credit check results back. My lawyer thinks we might have a case for criminal charges depending on what we find. I never thought I'd be considering pressing charges against my own family, but they've left me no choice. Update 3: I'm back with what will probably be my final update on this situation. After everything that's happened, I finally feel ready to close this chapter of my life and share how it all turned out. The credit checks revealed something I feared but somehow expected. 3 credit cards had been opened in my name that I never knew existed. My parents had opened them when I was in college, claiming they were teaching me about credit but never actually told me about them. They'd been using these cards primarily for their family betting pools and gambling activities. My lawyer helped me file police reports for identity theft. During the investigation, something even more disturbing came to light. My parents hadn't just done this to me, they had opened accounts in my cousins' names too. The whole family gambling addiction ran deeper than anyone realized. They had been using these fraudulent accounts to fund their betting pools for years. The investigation revealed over $50,000 in fraudulent charges across all the accounts they'd opened. My parents are now facing serious criminal charges. The prosecutor said this was one of the most organized cases of family identity theft they'd seen. Something unexpected happened during all this. Some family members actually started coming forward. 2 of my cousins admitted they felt pressured to participate in the betting pools and were relieved it was finally exposed. My Aunt Linda confessed she always felt sick about feeding me meat but was afraid of being ostracized if she didn't play along. She showed me years of group chats where family members who refused to participate were mocked and excluded. My immediate family, though, remains completely unrepentant. My sister lost her house because she couldn't find work after being fired for fraud. Turns out, employment fraud charges make it hard to get hired in HR. She's living with our parents now, and they're all still blaming me for destroying the family. They started a smear campaign on social media, telling extended family and old friends that I'm mentally unstable and making up lies about them. Some relatives who initially supported me have backed away, not wanting to get involved in the drama. Others have chosen sides, leading to huge rifts in the extended family. I moved to a different city for a fresh start. My new job is actually amazing. I've already been promoted twice, now that there's no one sabotaging my performance reviews. Rachel moved with me as my roommate, and honestly, she's been more family to me than my biological relatives ever were. I've blocked my family on everything and changed my phone number. Some of them still try to contact me through fake social media accounts, usually to tell me about new bets they're placing on my life, like when I'll come crawling back or if I'll show up at the next family funeral. I just keep blocking and documenting everything. The hardest part has been accepting that my childhood memories are now permanently tainted. Every achievement I thought I earned, every struggle I thought I overcame, every moment I thought my family was supporting me, they were actually betting against me and sabotaging my success for their entertainment. But you know what? I'm done being their gambling chip. I'm building a new life without their toxic games. I'm succeeding in my career, making real friends, and finally feeling like I can trust the people around me. Sometimes family isn't who you're born to, it's who actually respects you as a person. And for those wondering, yes, I'm still mostly vegetarian. Turns out my food choices are actually my choice now, not part of someone else's betting pool. I'm finally living life on my own terms, and it feels amazing. This will be my last update. Thanks for all the support, Reddit. You helped me see that I wasn't crazy for being upset about this, and gave me the courage to stand up for myself.